Goldilocks was sleepy, so she thought she would lie down and have a little nap. First, she got upon the great big bed, but it was just as hard as the great big chair had been, so she jumped off and tried the middling-sized bed. But it was so soft that she sank right down into the feather cushions and was nearly smothered. "I will try the teeny tiny bed," she said, and so she did, and it was so comfortable that she soon fell fast asleep. Whilst she lay there, dreaming of all sorts of pleasant things, the three bears came home from their walk very hungry and quite ready for their dinners. But oh dear me, how cross the great big bear looked when he saw his spoon had been used and thrown under the table. "Who has been tasting my soup?" he cried in a great big voice. "And who has been tasting mine?" cried the middling-sized bear in a middling-sized voice. "But who has been tasting mine and tasted it all up?" cried the poor little teeny tiny bear in a teeny tiny voice, with the tears running down his teeny tiny face. When the great big bear went to sit down in his great big chair, he cried out in his great big voice, "Who has been sitting on my chair?" And the middling-sized bear cried in a middling-sized voice, "Who has been sitting on my chair?" But the teeny tiny bear cried out in a teeny tiny voice of anger, "Who has been sitting on my chair and sat the bottom out?" By this time, the bears were sure that someone had been in their house quite lately, so they looked about to see if someone were not there still. There was certainly no one downstairs, so they went up the staircase to their bedroom. As soon as the great big bear looked at his bed, he cried out in his great big voice, "Who has been lying on my bed?" And the middling-sized bear, seeing that the coverlet was all rumpled, cried out in a middling-sized voice, "Who has been lying on my bed?" But the teeny tiny bear cried out in a teeny tiny voice of astonishment, "Who has been lying on my bed and lies there still?" Now when the great big bear began to speak, Goldilocks dreamt that there was a bee buzzing in the room, and when the middling-sized bear began to speak, she dreamt that it was flying out of the window. But when the teeny tiny bear began to speak, she dreamt that the bee had come back and stung her on the ear, and up she jumped. Oh, how frightened she was when she saw the three bears standing beside her. She hopped out of bed and in a second was out through the open window. Never stopping to wonder if the fall had hurt her, she got up and ran and ran and ran until she could go no farther, always thinking that the bears were close behind her. And when at length she fell down in a heap on the ground because she was too tired to run anymore, it was her own mother who picked her up because in her fright she had run straight home without knowing it.